Welcome back. 4 years, little over 4 years ago, I came to Prime. This is I've been at Prime for 4 years video to just kind of recap the story if you are new to the channel. First of all, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. If you haven't watched before, in the description, there is a link if you'd like to email questions to me. Obviously, you can just comment directly on this video if you have questions or comments or concerns. But you can email if you want something more direct. And then if you do want to come to Prime, there is a link in the description that takes you direct to the application. If you want to apply, it takes you right to it, so you don't have to go searching out how do I apply to Prime. So if you are new to my story, new to my channel, I've been doing videos for, boy, a little over 3 years now. I've been at Prime for just over 4 years. So it was January of 2015 that I left my previous job. I had spent about 17 years in radio, worked in sports radio in Minnesota, North Dakota, for the most part. Did that for a while. 2008 economy, really, which, you know, more than 10 years ago now. Economy started to really stink, so I started to find ways to get some additional money. And one of those things that ended up happening was I started driving bus. I started with school buses. A lot of places you can get your CDL, and it's a Class B CDL, if you don't know the difference. Class B CDL will let you drive anything on the road as long as it does not have a trailer. So large vehicle on the road, no trailer. So I drove school bus, drove charter bus for a while, ended up driving public transit after I moved to Michigan. And after doing that for about a year and a half, it was about 2013, moved to Michigan. And then, like I said, January of 2015 is when I left and went to Prime, went through their Prime Student Driver Program. And then February of 2015 is when I got my Class A CDL after going through the Prime Student Driver Program and began the training. And it was May of 2015 that I got my own truck. A little bit different timeline for a couple of different reasons. First of all, Prime Student Driver Program has changed since I went through it. It used to be, basically they told you it would be a minimum of a month. They now say it is a minimum of 14 days. So PSD program has changed in the previous 4 years. And TNT is basically the same, but I did change trainers. I actually changed trainers twice because I was going to originally stay with my PSD instructor, Prime Student Driver. And again, if you're new to the channel, Prime Student Driver is the CDL program. It's when you get your CDL. Even though I had a Class B CDL, Prime looked at me as though I did not have any experience at all. So I went through the entire Prime Student Driver Program, got my CDL in February, stayed for a week with my PSD instructor for some personal reasons, went with a different trainer for a couple of weeks, and then ended up on my final trainer's truck until May. And it was early May that I got my own truck. So I've been on my own for a little over 3.5 years. But as far as Prime is concerned, I believe it is February 12th that is my official anniversary date. Your hire date, and this is one of those questions that you get asked frequently. If you come to Prime and you want to put in your 1 year and then get out of that contract, and if you don't know Prime, when you come to Prime, the training is, you know, there's $150 you have to put up front. If you don't want to pay back for the training, the PSD program, you have to stay at Prime for about a year. And the 1 year that they're talking about is your hire date, and your hire date is the date that you get your CDL. You are not a Prime employee until you get your CDL. So my Prime hire date, even though I'm not technically a Prime employee, is considered February 12th. It's considered my Prime anniversary is February 12th. So by February 12th, 2016, I'd completed my 1 year obligation. It is obviously now 3 years later, February of 2019. And I have been with the company as an independent contractor. I do lease. I do tanker, I do dedicated out of Decatur, Indiana. When I first started, I lived in Michigan, got home every 2, 3, 4 weeks. And after doing it for about 3 months, talked to the wife and said, you know, I could get home every night if we moved to near Decatur, Indiana. So I have been doing that for probably about 3.5 years now. So 3 months after getting my own truck, we moved to Indiana. So that's the catch you up if you are new to the channel on the background. As far as my thoughts on 4 years at Prime, it has been a very, very positive experience. I know I've done videos on you know, how much money I've made in a given year, how much money you can make, lease versus company. I can't make those kind of decisions for you. I know I get people asking me all the time, should I do company? Should I do lease? Really, you're the only one who can answer that question. I know I have said that before. You will know at some point during your training, and that's the thing, you don't have to decide before you come to Prime. You don't have to decide until you're probably a week or 2 away from finishing your training. So during your training, you should be doing your investigation. You should be asking your trainer. You should be reaching out to other drivers through various resources, people you meet, guys you go through orientation with. Should I, you know, what are my options? What do you think? You'll know how well you know the industry based on what you learn while you're in training. For me, I had an excellent PSD instructor. He taught me not only the PSD is designed to be get you the plastic card, get you your CDL. That's it. There's a lot more to driving a truck. There's a lot more in tanker to unloading, loading, dealing with tank washes, all that sort of stuff. And if you don't understand how all of that works, with you being responsible for the truck payment and things, you might not want to lease right away. But you'll know, you're the only one who's going to ultimately know what the correct answer is. As I've said before, if your entire goal is to come in and do 1 year, maybe you can get a 1-year lease. There are short leases. There are used trucks available. Almost everyone gets a used truck when they start leasing. So if that's the goal, that's probably not a bad idea if you feel comfortable with the leasing part. But don't sign up for a 4-year lease if your sole intent is to leave after 1 year, because you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. And I've done videos on that where the lease completion bonus is a big part of, I mean, I've had this particular truck for about a year. And if I walked away from this lease before the end of lease, I would be forfeiting around $4,000. So consider that. And that's not money that Prime's going to bone. That is my money. That is money that I have earned that Prime holds on to, essentially, as if we need to repair anything, we'll take money out of that so that you're not responsible for all the damages and whatnot once the truck is turned in. So if you're willing to forfeit that $4,000 and let Prime have it after having a truck for a year, that's up to you. That's your call. But my opinion is complete a lease. So if you can find a used truck and do a 1-year lease and do your 1 year, and if your goal is still to get out of here, that's not a bad way to go. But if you're going to sign a 4-year lease, you should commit to staying at Prime for 4 years. So back to my thoughts on being here for 4 years. Again, I'm very happy with a lot of the things that have gone on. Obviously, I've been named Contractor of the Month. I've been named Contractor of the Year. I've been named to the Prime Driver Advisory Board. I'm not going to, and I've done a video along this line. I don't want to come across as though Prime is the greatest company on the face of the earth. I am very happy, but it's like anything. It's a job. This is not load up the RV and go sightseeing. It's work. there's no doubt about it. This is a job. This is work. And there will be days that you are frustrated. There will be days that you just want to go home. There will be days that, you just want to crawl into your bunk in the back at the end of the day and not have to drive somewhere the next day. There's no doubt that those days will be there. And I've had them over the last 4 years. But by and large, Prime has been good to me. Prime has been profitable for me. And I have been happy. Now, again, I do something that a vast majority of the people at Prime do not do. I do a dedicated tanker account, and I go home basically every single day. That's not the typical experience at Prime. However, if you really want that, that's something that can happen. Now, you may have to move to a spot that's doable. I've done a video recently within the last couple of months about the intermodal division. And there are options for greater home time in the intermodal division. There are options for greater home time in the tanker division. There are dedicated accounts, and they're tougher to get to in the flatbed and the reefer division. But the point that I'm making is Prime has those options available. Prime is a large enough company that you can do a lot of different things. And if you want to experience some of those things, if you want to come to Prime and do a year as a reefer driver, a year as a flatbed driver, a year as a tanker driver, it's a year as an intermodal driver, you can experience all of that basically as a company driver as well, and have all that experience under your belt without the difficulty of switching companies. So I recommend Prime. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend Prime if I wouldn't be doing these videos if I didn't recommend Prime. So to sum it up, I'm a happy employee, happy camper after 4 years of having done this. I was one of those that would have come to you 4 years ago and said, I'm doing my year and I'm going to leave. And it was about 6 months later that I was moving my family to Indiana. So things change. And I think that's one of those things you have to be aware of is you have to be flexible to the situation. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into. But overall, I've been very happy with the Prime experience. Hope that is beneficial for you. A 4-year look back at how things have gone for me personally. Again, I recommend it. If you want to try Prime, if you want to see if it works for you, link right in the description. Takes you directly to the application. You don't have to go searching for it. If you have any questions for me, comment below or use the email in the description of this video. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.